Ingles signing specifically, which is probably, I mean, unless you're me and think that Marjan Beauchamp is going to be a multi-time MVP, the Joe Ingles signing was probably the most prominent move that they made. I was higher on it in the moment, and then I thought about it a little bit more and was less high on it. And then West is coming back, Javon Carter's coming back, and I was probably neutral on it. Where did you land with it? Do you think there's a risk in using what was your best spending tool this summer on someone who won't play right away? Does it just reinforce that they don't give a shit about the regular season? And I think mainly just what do you think that he really adds to this team, or how much of a difference do you think his shooting and playmaking in the half court can make for them?
Yeah, I think it certainly reinforces the idea that Milwaukee's got postseason goals, right? Like they can finish third in the East, they can finish second. I don't think they want to finish, anywhere near the play-in, because that's obviously a different level of risk. But they're not all that concerned. If they're first, second, third, those are all fine. You can make it and win the finals from those seeds, as we've seen. Teams, I think, generally, especially teams who have been on long playoff runs before with the same core, they don't care that much. So I think certainly that is reinforced by it. But I think also I was pretty whelmed, I think appropriately whelmed at the time of the signing. I know my co-host Rohan was in shambles at the idea of signing Joe Ingles as the main move, the main new player brought in through free agency, the only new player brought in through free agency, because they just brought everyone else back. Maybe literally everyone. If Jordan, we'll see how the Jordan Wara thing goes.
It's weird
TBD
that
there.
he's just floating around out there, by the way.
I've got theories. I'm doing the Pepe Sylvia always sunny thing, connecting dots to Utah and Brooklyn or whatever. But he's just chilling. With media days this weekend as we record, so hopefully we have some Jordan Warren news at some point. But I think you look around at guys who went for around the mid level, and outside of Otto Porter going to Toronto, I'm not sure you see that many where you go, oh, that would have been way better for Milwaukee than a 1 year deal on Joe Ingles. And I think it's very purposefully 1 year because they could use non-Bird to bring him back at the same amount if both sides are happy, or they could cut bait and not have 2 more years of a guy who is an older player coming off of a very serious injury on their books, which could be a detriment to the Bucks going forward. So I mean, you look at like a Dallas getting JaVale McGee for the full MLE. Like JaVale's fine, but the Bucks clearly didn't really need him that much. Chicago uses a little bit of it on Andre Drummond again, like cool. I just don't look at that many other players who were really available to the Bucks who actually got that contract and go, oh, I really wish they had gotten this player instead. I think John Wall I would have loved, but it seems like the Clippers, there's more room for him to play there and be on ball. I think that makes a lot of sense for him. So I think it's fine overall. I think it's a fine flyer. And I think if he does get healthy, as they seem to, they've been floated Christmas as a time he could return. I think he could add a lot of very useful things to the Bucks. They could use more, just shot creation and ball handling on the bench, and that's something they don't have a ton of, at least on ball. So there's a theoretical world where he gives the bench a really nice jolt alongside players who really prefer to be off ball more than on ball that the Bucks do bring off their bench.
Are you at all worried? And I think the only Otto Porter Jr. was a good name to mention. He clearly wanted to go to Toronto
Yeah,
too. His
yeah.
girlfriend is from there, I believe. And then the name I focus on, and I just want to know like why Brooklyn are the vitals on him that bad? Did he really want to play in Brooklyn that badly? But TJ Warren at the minimum, I would have given him the entire mini MLE if I were the Bucks, because if he doesn't pan out, I just think he had a better chance of making a difference than a Joe Ingles. And I think my main question with Joe Ingles, I think he'll shoot better this year when he's healthy, and the playmaking will it'll sustain, even if he can be a little sloppy on the pick and roll. He just did not look good
Yeah.
last year before he was injured. And so are you at all concerned about like what he'll be like defensively, or do you not assign much concern there? Because this, I think when you start to get into the nuts and bolts of the Bucks roster, this is clearly not someone they envision as being a part of their closing unit. Like there would probably be 2 or 3 guys I would estimate in front of him to round out what I think there are probably like 4 sure thing spots in their closing lineup right now when they're healthy.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about where the Bucks are at right now is they do have so many guys who you can really just kind of not even pencil but pen into important roles on the team in the rotation that for players I think kind of oddly because they're on separate ends of their careers, but like Ingles and Beauchamp are both in it's fine if there's warts because the Bucks shouldn't need them to do a ton, either of them. But if they play their way into more, that's terrific, right? That's a win. If Ingles, really takes time to get healthy, and not saying I have any insight on him with the Jazz or whatever last season, or I think Blazers. I don't think he actually played there. But, sometimes I think players in other teams are either through their own volition or by the teams are encouraged to, make sure they get out there and that they're playing, that they're, active. And the Bucks of recent years have been very proactive in making sure like you're not going to play until you're right. I think we saw that with Brook Lopez, who I know we'll
Yeah.
talk about more, but it took him forever to come back. And I think that's better than getting him back earlier when he's not all the way ready. I think PJ Tucker, I mean, he was playing for a bad Rockets team. The Bucks traded for him and shut him down for a couple of weeks and said, you're going to get all the way healthy. Like we're not prioritizing February games. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ingles, maybe we don't see him as early as some reports have been, but I think he'll look as right as he's going to look. I mean, maybe there's some rust, maybe he needs to get in shape, but I think injury-wise, the Bucks will be a good fit for him to make sure he's really ready to return and that they do it the right way. So I'm not overly worried, both because I don't think they'll need to rely on him, and I really do trust this team, this medical, this strength and conditioning staff. Suki Hobson's done a great job with Bucks players. I think this is probably as good of a spot as any for an injured veteran to come back into the fold.